Hey, we're live. So they're at Tyler Robinson's house right now doing a search, and suddenly the police came out and they told the camera crew that everyone had to leave because of um, something concerning that they found. Not they found, something concerning. And so then everybody backed away, and then you see the cops bring in a dog, which I presume is a bomb sniffing dog, and it was also reported that the FBI is at 3 other locations. This is very concerning, and it's being reported that Tyler was a member of Antifa. Antifa needs to be labeled a terrorist organization, and they need to be ripped out root and branch from every location across this country. And there's a guy named Hassan Piker, a Muslim radical in New York, and he went on his show this morning and said that Charlie Kirk's death wasn't violent enough, that he should have been sliced up, and called on, hey Bobby, called on every one of his followers to slice up and gut every Republican. This kind of stuff has to stop. You know, we on our side don't sit there and call for the unaliving. What help? We on our side don't call for the unaliving of the other side. We just want to state what happened. Hassan Piker this morning said that Charlie Kirk's death wasn't violent enough. And he called on all of his followers to slice up every Republican in this country, and said, I mean, gut them. That's not okay. And what I started talking about is that the FBI is at the home of Tyler Robinson, the shooter. Hey, Seema. And that suddenly an agent come out and told people to back away because of something concerning that they found. And then they brought in a dog, and the dog was sniffing the house. And so I don't know what is going on with that, but I do know that it's being widely reported that Tyler is a member of Antifa. Antifa should be labeled a terrorist organization, and they should be ripped out root and branch from this country, because their history goes all the way back to Mussolini during World War II. It's just crazy. that here we are, we're mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, and then we have this other guy say that every Republican should be unalived. That's not okay. And you know, one of the things I, respected Charlie for, hey, at us, is that he would go to any college campus anywhere in this country, and he would let the college students ask him questions. Hey, Izzy. He would let them ask any question. No question was off limits. And he would answer their question. And he wouldn't do it in a mean way or a condescending way. He would just said, oh, okay. And then he said, well, this is what really happened, and tell them what really happened and tell them where they could go look that up. That's what he did all across this country. And it's being said because of that he was silenced. That's not okay, people. Hey, it us. It's not okay. You know, our country is founded on that both sides, hey Connor, have a constitutional right to freedom of speech. It is our right in this country to have our own opinions and talk to other people about our opinions, and you shouldn't get mad and want someone unalived because of their opinion. That's just, to me, that's just not okay. You know? And, the way I look at it is something happened yesterday in Europe. At every U.S. embassy all across Europe, citizens from Europe showed up at the embassy and asked to pay tribute to Charlie Kirk. It happened in Germany, in Italy, in Spain. Today it's happening in the UK. And it happened in South Africa yesterday. This is a global wake-up call that this kind of rhetoric is not okay. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, that is wonderful. And these sick bastards that are on social media cheering because another human being lost their life like this is sick. It's just sick. And we need to look at ourselves and respect, hey Leanne, respect ourselves and wake each other up. Let people talk about what they believe and just have a discussion with them. You know, I am a conservative. I have a cousin who's a moderate Democrat. When this happened with Charlie, I wrote him and I said, cousin, I fear for your safety. And we had a discussion about what was going on. And he, said, this is not okay. Thank you, Leanne. I too, Connor, have lost a lot of hope in humanity. But then I think about Charlie. Right, Dennis. Charlie's message needs to go forward. Yes, I said that when this first happened. I said, any college professor that's teaching their student to hate should be fired, because they should not be teaching students to hate. Charlie would never give up on losers. You know, I don't agree with much of what Chink Uger says on TYT, but last night he was so upset. He went outside on his phone and he was telling his people, this is not okay. We don't do this. He said, I was friends with Charlie, and while I didn't agree with him on much, he was never mean. He was never arrogant. He was never condescending. And he said, what you have done is you have woken up a sleeping giant. Good, Connor. And something I was talking about earlier with one of my friends that I'll bring up to us now is, well, there's a couple of things. I'm 65, going to be 66, and I have an aide that comes and helps out and picks up the house. And her and I were talking this morning, and she's a moderate Democrat, and she said, this is not okay. She said, this is unforgivable. And it's like, there's so much stuff going on in the world. And then this happened, and it's like, it's a wake-up call for our side. What I was starting to talk about before I got off track there is, they're currently at Tyler's house right now, executing a search warrant. There and at 3 other locations. The FBI agent came out to the microphone and said, we need to evacuate the area because of a concern. And then they brought in a dog. The dog is a bomb dog. So I don't know if they found a bomb or was looking for a bomb or what was going on, but there's numerous raids happening as we speak at Tyler's house, well, Tyler's apartment, Tyler's parents' house, and 2 other locations. And at Tyler's parents' house is where they evacuated the area, and they brought in a helicopter, and that just doesn't sound good, right? And I think and I think something else that's kind of interesting and tragic, the question that Charlie was asked when he was shot. He was asked, how many of the shooters in the school shootings in the last 10 years have been trans? That's the question he was asked. Charlie said, too many. Which the questioner followed up by saying it's 5. And Charlie said, even if it's 1, it's 1 too many. And then he was shot. So that makes it seem like it's a setup. Am I wrong for putting that deduction together? You know, what I call connecting the dots? Yeah, Charlie was always easygoing. and he was always respectful. And there's been reports that said that Charlie's security staff was in on it. I watched that video where they said that. That's not what I see. Just because someone adjusted their hat on a hot day and then rubbed their cheek, yeah, right, Leanne. We just don't know yet. And we don't want to jump to conclusions. And that's why what I always do is I report on things as they come out. I wait for things to come out and then talk about what's actually happening. It's very fishy. Because the one guy was arrested with a pellet gun, then another guy was arrested and let go. And then now they were talking about, there was a whole conversation on Tyler's Discord channel where Tyler told them that he did it and told them where he left the gun and told one of them to go and pick up the gun. Thank you, Tim. Because this is very concerning. And it's not who is one of them? One of who? I don't know. They haven't said who it was. They said there was 3 other individuals. And, they tried to say that he's a MAGA supporter and all of this. But then Liberal Hive Mind, I like Liberal Hive Mind on YouTube. He showed this morning, hey, Aman, hey, fried fish, that recent photographs of Tyler, he has the Antifa flag sewed on his vest. I thought that was a wake-up, that the Antifa flag was sewed on his vest, and then there was another flag next to it. This, there have been calls for a while now, several months, to label Antifa a terrorist organization. And I think it's time for it to happen. Oh, Antifa is an anti-fascist organization that has roots back to Mussolini in Italy. And they have skirted under the radar for all this time, and now they're coming out and they're a Marxist communist organization. And they, from what I have been seeing lately, they have offices in every country in the world. Yes, they are, Leanne. They have offices in every country in the world. Every country. And in order to remove them from every country. We have to label them as a terrorist organization and go to the International Criminal Court and label them as a terrorist organization there. And then this guy Piker today. Have you guys heard what Piker said this morning? He said that Charlie's death wasn't violent enough. Said they should have sliced him up and they should have gutted him on TV. And called on his followers to do that to every Republican in America. That's a terrorist threat, isn't it? Wouldn't that be considered a terrorist threat? I'm not kidding, Leanne. When I read the report on X, I had to go back and reread it. Yes, Connor, they're trying to normalize this. They're trying to silence people that speak out against what the other side doesn't believe in, whether you're on the right side or the left side. And it's not okay. I agree, Tim. And that's what Antifa does. I just read some stuff on them last month, and they said they get into the person by just normal conversation, and then they pick out things that they can twist and turn and radicalize them to follow their beliefs. And the initial reports that said that the bullet casings had anti-trans information scratched into them are false. What was scratched into them was catch fascist, and then something that said look for the bulge, and then some other stuff. That's not anti-trans. Well, it's anti-fascist. And then I started reading this morning and said all of those things that are listed on there are all from Antifa. He said that's all Antifa propaganda. You know, I quit watching the mainstream media almost a year ago. I get all of my news off of YouTube, off of YouTubers that do the news. Hey, Robert. And I don't miss it. I don't miss, watching Fox News and all of that, because I started stopping watching Fox News when I found out that Paul Ryan is on the board of Fox News, and Paul Ryan makes decisions about what is aired and what isn't. Hey, Rob. Good, Leanne. This has been a huge wake-up call. And somebody said when this happened that by them doing this, they created 1,000 Charlie Kirks. Well, from what I saw yesterday, they've created 10 million Charlie Kirks. And let me tell you what happened at the EU yesterday. the EU, a minister of parliament, stood up and asked for a moment of silence for his conservative, I think he said patriot, that lost his life and named Charlie Kirk. The person at the desk told him, "We have talked about this." And hey, Uncle Ruckus, said, "We have talked about this." And the president rejects your moment of silence. That's the president of the EU. They did not do the moment of silence for Charlie at the EU yesterday. They tried. I give them kudos for trying. Yeah, what I do is I watch the clips on YouTube. That way, if there's someone, yes, for an American podcaster, Monique, he is not a Nazi. Charlie Kirk had nothing but love in his heart for others. You know, I was talking about this earlier. I said Charlie would go to any college campus anywhere in this country and sit down and let the students talk to him. Let the students ask questions. They would. He would sit there and he would just ask them questions and talk to them like they were human beings. No, he didn't do it like that. He didn't film it and argue for content. He would just go and talk to them. He would pitch a tent in the middle of their quad, not inside on the stage, just outside, and anyone could come and ask any question. I'm not going down that road, people. You know, I'm not. We all know Charlie. We all know what he was like. Yes, it's our right as an American to disagree. And what is so upsetting to many of us is that yeah, he has said some bad stuff, but that doesn't make it okay that he was silenced like this. That's not okay. You know, I lived through JFK being killed, RFK being killed, Martin Luther King being killed. Yeah, you know, one of the fabulous things, well, he would make quotes, but he would tell people the truth. People would try to say that Trump said this or Trump said that, and he would just tell them, actually, no, this other person said it, would tell them the exact quote and tell them where they could go look it up. And I agree, Robert Lee. You know, We are not supposed to do that. We are not supposed to get so angry at the other person because of their opinion that we want them unalived. That's not okay. Yes, Tim, I agree. Charlie used his words, and Charlie was never condescending. He was never mean. He was never arrogant. He always let the students talk and say whatever question. He would let them ask whatever question they wanted. No subject was off limits. Yes, Leanne, he loved young people. He loved these college students. And he would go there, and people would come by the thousands. They would come by the thousands. And where he was making inroads is he was telling them about his faith and about what he believed because of his faith. And he would spout statistics, in this whole issue with black on white crime and black on black crime and all of that stuff. He wouldn't just say, blacks kill more whites. No, he would give the statistics and the percentages. And he did not, that's right, Leanne, he did not want them to be confused. And he would tell them where they could go look it up. I personally have said I would rather him get the death penalty, but I also want to know who radicalized him and go after them as well. Right, Heather. Nobody likes the truth. And he always told them about Jesus. And my thing on the death penalty is it has to be proven that the person did it. Here we have it on tape. The event on tape, Tyler running away. Yes, Moist. It has. I believe in due process. Right. Because I think they're looking for this one bearded guy that after it happened, he jumped in front of the camera and said, "Yes, we got him." Well, who does he belong to? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying two wrongs make a right, Connor. I'm just saying from Charlie's point of view, Charlie believed in the death penalty. And hey, Case, and he said, because the Bible says an eye for an eye. And while I put caveats in that should be only for the worst of the worst. Okay, Tim, thanks for being active here. That's a figure of speech, Derek. Thank you, Connor. You know, it's just, hey, greetings from South Africa. We were talking about South Africa a few minutes ago. The the old guy got dragged away because he had a pellet gun in his pocket. We were talking about that in South Africa yesterday, that people went to the U.S. Embassy and asked to pay tribute to Charlie Kirk. That happened all across Europe too yesterday. You know, none of this makes sense right now. You know, we're trying to piece together things that are happening, and it's coming out in dribs and drabs, and we want all to come out. But we want the truth, because Charlie was about telling the truth. Yeah, moist and white. Hey, narrator. Well, my issue on the Epstein files is that some of the victims have said they don't want them released. Yes, dear. He was a good chap. He was loved and respected by many. But Charlie didn't demonize others. I don't know where you're getting that from. Well, thank you, Connor. I love coming on here and talking to you guys and talking about topics that are going on in the world. And I enjoy talking to you guys because I get to hear what you guys feel about the subject and not just me talking, hey, Red, talking about what's going on here or there. So that's what I have for you guys today. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll schedule it this evening for tomorrow around this time. You all take care. No, that's not what he was talking about. I just talked about this a few minutes ago, Moist. The question he was asked was, how many shooters at schools were trans in the last 10 years? And the answer he gave was, he said, too many. And then the questioner followed up and said, it's 5. And Charlie said, even if it was 1, it's 1 too many. He said nothing against the trans community. He just stated a fact. Right, Robert Lee. You know, he never hated anybody. Thank you, Red. Thank you, Leanne. You know, like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. I do this every day, once or twice a day. No, Frank. Charlie's a Christian. Charlie's in heaven. Thank you, Moist. Okay, so, you know, we'll be back tomorrow. Take care.